going back to the Perfect Weapon, what was your experience like on that? I mean, because you got to work with some big stars on the time. Kari Tagawa, who everybody remembers as Shang Tsung from the original Mortal Kombat movie. And first time I ever saw him was in the movie Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee.
Right.
And he was he was just like such a cunning, evil character in that movie. But then you find out he's like the most nicest person on the planet. That's always the true thing, isn't it? Everyone who plays a villain turns out to be the nicest person on the planet. But that's called good acting, isn't it? Yeah.
Because that's it. They're just acting. But you're right about Kerry. He was so super to work with. And James Liu.
Oh, yeah. He's a legend.
Another guy that was phenomenal. And then, of course, there's the big monster,
Professor
Charles Kalani.
Yeah.
Professor,
What was it? Professor Tanaka? Was that his name? Professor
Tanaka. Right.
That's it,
Tanaka was his stage name.
Oh, yeah.
Charles Kalani was his real name. And you're ready for this? Kalani is a Hawaiian name. He grew up on the Hawaiian Islands with Ed Parker.
Wow.
They were childhood friends. So they were reunited on the set of The Perfect Weapon. And man, that two gigantic big Hawaiian guys together hanging out and eating and talking in their pidgin English back and forth. It was really a trip to be there.
I can imagine, Sensei. It's like this is a trip for me right now, just to speak to yourself. And I think when I tell everybody about this, they're going to be like, "No way, did you get Jeff Speakman on your show?" Okay, you stay there. Send you the link. Okay, yeah, you did get. Okay, so I'll track back what I said. You did get Jeff Speakman on your show, and I told you. I thought he said that.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go. Yeah, as you mentioned, you got to. Speaking of some of the fight scenes in Perfect Weapon, I mean, I loved all the fight scenes in that movie, starting from the kata. And I agree with what Scott Adkins says, and I give him credit for this. It's nice when you open up the movie with the actual martial art form, because you're in for a real martial arts movie. It's not just some underground movie like they were coming out at the time, like Bloodsport, Kickboxer. Both are fantastic movies, don't get me wrong. But when you bring a real martial art onto the screen, you're definitely in for a real treat. Same thing what Seagal did at the beginning of Above the Law, when he's doing the Aikido demonstration, and he's throwing people around like they're made of paper. Again, you're in for a real martial art, not a sport.
Yes. And you brought up Van Damme's second movie, Kickboxer.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, there's another connection there. And that was in those 5 years that I was studying acting before The Perfect Weapon.
Yeah.
At this acting workshop, there was a guy there who was teaching, one of the classes. And we kind of became friends over the long haul, many months. And so we're just sitting there talking. And just in getting to know each other, I told him I really here from martial arts, and I did this thing called Kempo. And he went, "You're not going to believe this, but I wrote the movie Kickboxer."
Mark DeSalle,
Van Damme movie.
Mark DeSalle?
No, that was Glenn Bruce wrote it.
Glenn Bruce.
Mark DeSalle directed it.
Oh, right, okay.
He's the reason why I got tied to Mark DeSalle.
Okay.
And Mark DeSalle is the reason why we got into Paramount.
Wow. Congratulations.
So there's a guy randomly, this huge city, Los Angeles. I happened to go to the one acting workshop that the guy that's one of the coaches there happens to also be a writer who wrote Van Damme's second movie. There's another ridiculous coincidence.
But it's a good coincidence. It's a good coincidence. I'll give you that sense.
It worked for me.
Of course. Look at this, Perfect Weapon, one of the best movies I've ever seen. And going in, and you got to work with Mako as well. And because I know, I'm sure he was like one of the nicest people to work with as well, wasn't he?
He was. They all were. In fact, even, Tanaka-san, Toru Tanaka, he was a very kind and gentle person. I mean, he was a wrecking machine in the movie.
Yeah, you could tell.
But, oh my gosh. I mean, they had to buy a black suit for him. He wore a 60 Portly.
Wow.
And so that would be a size 70.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
He was I'm not kidding. His shoulders were like 3 times the width of mine. He was, and a wonderful, gentle, kind person. It really was bizarre, but those are the great memories that'll never leave me.
Oh, I can imagine, Sensei. I mean, like I said, you got to work with him. And he seemed like a really nice guy as well. I mean, I can remember watching him in quite a few movies, like was it
Yeah.
Force of One? Break, what was the movie? Eye for an Eye with Chuck Norris. And he was a monstrous looking dude. And I remember seeing him in an episode of The A-Team. And he takes on Mr. T of all people, and we're like, "Oh, right." I remember him throwing Mr. T around, and about Mr. T, and Mr. T has always been one of my childhood heroes, and he still is even till today. And he said, like, I just remember, oh no, B.A. Baracus is going to get angry now if he gets his hands on this guy. And but yeah, I can remember that fight scene you had with the Tanaka at the end. That was just something else. That was definitely like a bullwhip going against a bulldozer, because he was just like, you could kick him and he was like, I'm not feeling anything. I can remember one of the lines. Was it Dante Basco in the movie who plays the young kid in there?
Yes.
Yeah. And I can remember the impression you said when he goes, everybody in Koreatown knows Young killed Kim. Tracy.
Yeah.
That was such a classic. Like, when he looked at him, he was like, "What'd you call me?" Sorry, I was only kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
Great acting. And then John Dyer was his name. John, I hope I pronounced it right.
Dye,
yeah.
John Dye.
Yeah, I remember watching him in Best of the Best 1. I can remember when I looked at him, he played one of the Thai. Did he actually have a martial arts background as well, or was he just trained for that movie?
He did some, but not what you and I would call as a like a lifestyle.
Okay.
You know.
Oh right, yeah, and because you had Bu Star who played your father in that movie, and I remembered, because like I said, it was one of my favorite martial arts movies. I've seen it so many times, and it's one of the movies where you could just watch it and just never get bored of it. To tell you the truth, it's one of them inspirational movies, and I love the quote at the end. This movie is dedicated to Ed Parker and the people of Kempo, and
yes,
hats off to you as well, Sensei, for that as well.
Thank you.
And going back to the fight scenes, as you did mention, you did all the choreography, and I remember the first time when we see the older version of Jeff fighting the guys in the shop, when he pulls them out through the window and he smashes onto the mat, and the line you just came up with, "Is there a problem here?" And the guy's like, guess so. And you just
guess so.
And then when you did you were just awesome, even with the weapons, the sticks. Then you were just bashing people like they were made out of paper yourself. And I love the impression where you hold the broom up and then the guy breaks it in half and you went, "Oh, thanks." You were like, "Thanks for this. This is going to come in handy."
Here we go.
Beating them up like that. And and even one of the gear, when you're gearing up, one of them scenes where you're throwing the knives and the boots and everything, that again brings back to action hero homage, where you see a lot of the action heroes loading up with guns. You saw Arnold do that, you saw Stallone do that, but then you see this guy bringing out martial arts weapons. He's doesn't need a gun, he's got his bare fist, and that was just something so cool. And when you're battering the sofa, the couch, you're battering the sofa, you're like bam, 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 bam. It's like, what? I'm not going to get on the wrong end of this, dude. It was just like that.
And so many people in the martial art world asked me, "Oh, who did you learn Eskrima from?" Right? And I never did, because Kempo stick fighting is what we did. It's just in the art of Kempo, you don't learn that until you've been a black belt for a long time. So we have a very intense stick and knife aspect to Kempo, but that's way up in the high black belt ranks, because you're not going to pull out a pair of sticks and probably not going to have a knife in a street fight. You're going to have your empty hands. So become an expert in that, and then you can go into the weapons. And that's the logic we used when we moved into Kempo 5.0, because we had no skill on the ground. And we thought, man, if we don't adapt to that, then Kempo is just going to continue to drop in its popularity. Because why would some 17-year-old kid walking into a karate school and go, "Well, how do you guys do your Kempo on the ground?" And if you go, "Well, we don't do that," they go, "Okay, thanks, bye." Who's going to study from a martial art that doesn't know how to fight on the ground? It's ridiculous.
It is, because you have to kind of because it's been that lifelong question. This is kind of where MMA came into fruition, where it was like, how would a boxer take on a wrestler? How would a judo expert take on a jiu-jitsu expert? Where even though judo and jiu-jitsu are both grappling-based martial arts, but how would they compete with one another? That's always the quite $1 million question you always have to ask.
Right. And then you've also got to ask, how different is Japanese jiu-jitsu from Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and they are very, very different. And so those become the interesting questions, don't they? And that's why we created this, if you will, hybrid of the practical aspects of the street art of Kempo with the ground aspects of grappling. And the question is, how would you see, because we say we're not doing jiu-jitsu, we're doing Kempo on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's very different because of the art of Kempo, we do things on the ground that they don't do because they're a sport and they can't do that. Well, we're an art and we can do anything.
Yeah, true.
So all we really had to do was sort of learn what you can't do, and then we made techniques that violate that rule.
Okay.
And so if there's an advantage for the Kempo 5.0 people, it's because we are so unorthodox at what we do on the ground, we would have a window of opportunity to take control of that situation. And that is the essence of the 5.0 system, and that is how we think and how we train.
Oh, I'd agree with that. Yeah, again, you have granted Sensei Parker's wishes by keeping up with the times. And
yes,
it's true. Yes. I agree with what you said there. If you don't keep up with the times, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Everyone's going to say, well, forget it. It's just the same thing over and over again. Let's try something different. And then this is how you will lose students and go off to who want to learn actual Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Jiu-Jitsu itself. So it's good that you yourself, you've respected the lessons of your teacher, not just the martial arts, but the respect factor that comes along with it as well.
Yes. And I think that's a thing we're really lacking.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's in sport martial arts,
yes,
which is almost a contradiction, but in the sport aspect of it, that kind of loyalty and appreciation and respect for other people is something that is not emphasized there. And that's something that's dearly lacking in the martial art world and in our collective lives anywhere in the world.
Yes,
these days.
That's true.
So what we really love is that we've been able to maintain that, if you will, traditional aspect to martial arts, but we have a very modern system of self-defense, of street defense.
Oh,
really.
yes, of course.
So I actually call it self-offense because it's such an aggressive martial art.
It is. The scene in Perfect Weapon when you beat the 4 guys up, you go, you want more money? You want it? You take it, bang.
Yeah.
And then it was that one clip I showed Aiden in the trailer. He was like, what the heck is this? Aiden, blame himself. He's never done martial arts. I don't think he's ever set foot in a class of martial arts. And as soon as he saw that and he saw the trailer, he, like I said, ran home, watched the movie. Next day, we're both ready for the podcast. And then I'm going to send you the link to that podcast. Again, it's my respect I've given to you, sir, because I had to send you that podcast. I had to do it just in your honor, sir.